This turned out to be a really big reread month for me, but it wasn't bad at all. Hi guys, I'm Irene, you're watching Perpetually Paperback, and today I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up. So I will say, honestly, this was not a bad reading month. It was a reread. I reread the Hathaway series, almost all of it. Love the series. I loved it just as much, even more, the second time around, which is really surprising because I'm really not a big rereader at all. But I'm just gonna go from start to finish. So the first book I read this month was the first one in the Hathaway series, Mine Till Midnight. And I'm not going to talk too much about these because I have a couple of videos planned out for the Hathaway series, so you guys are going to see those coming out a little bit later this month. But this is one of my favorites in the series. It follows Amelia and Cam as they meet each other, and Cam sort of integrates himself into the family. This one focuses around their love story. And it truly is just my favorite in the series. I think with this series in particular, it reads really nicely all together because you get so much of each of the siblings in all of the books, especially in this one. You get a lot of Mary Penn and Wynn's and Winifred's love story kind of from the beginning. And apparently Cam, which I've actually not read the Wallflower series, but apparently Cam is a character in the Wallflowers who then gets his own sort of spin-off in the Hathaways. So that was my first one. I would say 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I love the characters. I love the writing in that one. It's just wholesome and charming and wonderful, even though it is romance, but I love it. The next one I read after that was one I was actually reading largely through the month of April, but it was The Mermaid of Jeju by Sumi Han. I have a different video about this. I pretty much rant about it. I didn't care for it. It was really promising to start, and then about halfway through, the narrative completely changes, and it feels like a fever dream that was never fully finished. Just so you know, it has nothing to do with mermaids. They're not even in the water. I really wanted to hear more about the Haenyeo women, who are the women divers on Jeju Island in Korea. I didn't get tons of that. The story itself started off really interesting and then really just petered off. It follows Junja and her family while they live on Jeju Island. They're very poor farmers, and certain things start to happen that have to do with the American-Korean War. There's also things that you hear about the Japanese occupation. All those things were really interesting. And then about halfway through the narrative, it, like I said, completely changes. You hear from Junja's husband, who is not who you expect it to be, which is fine, but it never felt like it came together for me at the end. For me, it just felt very disjointed. Towards the end, it was very confusing. I heard it on audio, and I found the whole thing was just very confusing and not particularly enjoyable at the end. So about half the book I loved, about half the book I hated. I ended up going with 2 stars because, like I said, it really felt at the end like, what is the point? Anyway, after that, I read the rest of the Hathaway series. So Seduce Me at Sunrise, and I kind of read them in a quick succession. I'm not really sure why, it just worked out that way. I also listened on like faster speed when I do a reread, so I'm not sitting there and listening the whole way. I don't like to speed up my audiobooks normally because I think the pacing of a book is really important. But in rereads, since I've already kind of gotten that, I don't mind so much. So I flew through them in quick succession. Seduce Me at Sunrise, it follows Winifred and Mary Penn, who, I'm not gonna lie to you, this is my least favorite in the whole series. I've realized I don't like, whatever the trope is of the unruly male lead, the unworthy protagonist. Basically, Mary Penn kind of feels like he is not good enough for Winifred. So this is another one where like she's throwing herself at him the entire time, and he's like, no, but no. But like, I love you, but no. That I find obnoxiously frustrating. I don't care for it at all. Because you get elements and character development for all of the other characters in the family, I still didn't hate it. I actually really like Mary Penn, and I actually really like Winifred. I just found their whole story to be frustrating. I like them a lot more in the other books. So you get a lot of them in a lot of the beginnings of their relationship in Mine Till Midnight. I enjoyed that much, much more. And I think because of that, I didn't completely hate it, but honestly for me, this was a 2-star. And I think it was a 2-star from the first read. It is my least favorite of the whole series. After that, what's the next one after that? Tempt Me at Twilight? Tempt Me at Twilight? Okay, yes, it's Tempt Me at Twilight. And this one is Harry Rutledge and Poppy, who honestly are so cute together. Poppy, I didn't realize might be one of my favorite characters in the Hathaway series, just because she's just like, she's smart and thoughtful and adventurous. Harry Rutledge is a British American hotelier. He has a lot of money, and it is not from nobility. Like, he is a self-made man. So there's also a big thing in Victorian literature, or like historical romance, where if you are not titled, you are nothing. Okay, that might be aggressive, but basically for the Hathaways, that doesn't matter. And honestly, that might be one of my favorite things about the whole series, that Lisa Kleypas doesn't shy away from, like, I think only arguably 2 people marry titled people, and I'm only counting that because Leo has a title. Anyway, it's not a main concern for them, and Poppy and Harry's relationship develops really nicely. You get a lot more of them by themselves, and then Harry comes into his own when he visits the family. You can't be part of their family and not just love them. I really enjoyed it. I like that you are getting a lot more of Leo in these. A lot of people really disliked Leo because, let's be honest, he is a dick in the first couple ones. But like, he lost the love of his life. He just lost his family. There's like a whole lot of shit in his life that, like, I don't blame him for being a little bit of a degenerate for a while. Because, so that was Tempt Me at Twilight. Tempt Me at Twilight, honestly, I think for me is like a 3-star. It's not bad. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I like all the family dynamics, obviously, but also, again, not my favorite. After Mine After Midnight, I think Leo's story might be my favorite. His whole relationship with Catherine Marks spans from, you start to really see it in Seduce Me at Sunrise. They hire a governess for Poppy and Beatrix, who then kind of sort of becomes their friendly companion and joins the family, if you will. We also find out that she's Harry Rutledge's sister. I think you start to find that out closer to, I think you get that in Tempt Me at Twilight. It's like not necessarily a spoiler. But I love her. She's like sassy. It's definitely, what is this one? Married by Morning. So this one has not really a marriage of convenience, if you will. I think that's more Poppy and Harry. This one is Leo inherited the title of Lord Ramsay, and none of the lords had lived past 5 years, so there happens to be a statute that, like, or I don't know if it's a statute, there's something that he must marry and produce an heir 5 years into the title, otherwise the title falls back to like the last lord's wife and daughter, who find that out pretty early on, and they are coming for the house, especially now that it's like nice and pretty and Mary Penn fixed it up and it's all great. Now that they want it, they're coming out of the woodwork. No. As all of this is happening, Leo is basically having this relationship with Catherine Marks. Catherine Marks is a sassy bitch. I love her. She has like her own issues. Her backstory actually is one of the most interesting, I think, in the entire series, at least for myself. Her relationship with Leo is amazing. They kind of reminded me of, they're both like whip smart, and they like constantly banter with each other, which I love. Their arguments they used to fight a lot more in the first ones. That's why I really say it's enemies to lovers, but like from the series on, they kind of are into each other from this point, but we've seen in all the other books their like fights with each other, if you will. So this one we have Leo and Marks, and he pretty much changes completely from his personalities in any of the other stories. He's sad and angry and mean and in all of the others, and everyone in the family is like, this isn't him, this isn't him. I think in this one we finally get who him is, and it's wonderful. He like plays this degenerate in public, but like he's kind, he's there for his sisters, he's there for his family, he's just so wonderful, and he's witty and smart, and he's great. Like, he is one of my favorite people in the entire book, in the entire series. So that is, I probably gave this one 4 stars because it's just, I loved it. I loved it so much. Also, after that, what did I read after that? I needed some palette cleansers after that. So instead of reading the 5th one in the series, which is 11 in the afternoon, I went over to, I've been reading Taylor Jenkins Reid Daisy Jones and the Six, and I'm going to talk about it now because I'm going to finish it today or tomorrow. I'm just a few pages to the end, really. And I kind of got to a point where I was like really interested at the beginning and then had like 0 interest at all in it. I don't know what it is about it that I just, at the 200 page mark, I'm just like, I don't really care that much about any of the characters. At first I was thinking I really enjoyed the writing style because it is told in an interview format, and it's about this fictional band from the 70s that is sort of based on like, I actually thought it was based on Fleetwood Mac, but it's really more based on a lot of bands and music from the 70s. And I will say there's a really cool look at how music is made from start to finish. I think those parts were really interesting, but I don't know, maybe because it's a fictional band and all of it's made up, I just don't feel that I'm really invested anymore. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought at the 200 page mark we'd be a little bit more progressed in the story, and they're just about to have their like world tour for Aurora, and honestly I don't care. So I don't really know what I'm gonna rate that book, but so far I'm not super happy with where we're at in that. I'm thinking maybe it'll end up being like a moderate 3 stars, maybe a 2.5. So after that, I listened to With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. And I think this is my first Elizabeth Acevedo. It is a YA. It follows this young Puerto Rican girl who had a baby her freshman year, and it's her kind of figuring out her life through her senior year. She's also very, very into cooking, which, if anyone knows anything about me, is completely up my alley. I do have a couple notes on it. I'm like an hour from finishing that book, give or take, and honestly, I will say it'll probably end up being 3 stars for me. It's not my favorite YA. It is good though. I enjoyed it for the most part. There's a couple things that really just like rub me the wrong way, and this is a personal choice. There's the character has a daughter, and the daughter's name is Emma, but she refers to her as baby girl through the entire book. And I'm sorry, that's just maybe something that bothers me tremendously because it's me, but I hate anyone that refers to anyone as baby girl. It really bothers me. And then you like named your child, and she went through this whole thing where she like specifically picked the name of her child for a reason, and then she calls her baby girl. I don't know, it almost made me stop reading the book. It irritates me, but whatever, we'll call it a cultural thing. Outside of that, she basically takes this immersive cooking class at her school, and there's a trip to Spain, and it's kind of her trying to come up with the money and figuring out her life with her daughter and her grandma as she tries to gear up for this trip to Spain, where she's so focused on culinary arts. There is a little bit of a love story in it too, because obviously YA. It was fine. It was enjoyable. It makes me want to check out some of Elizabeth Acevedo's other stuff, I will say, but it was just a nice little palate cleanser. I would say maybe 3 stars. Finally, the last book I read this month was The Magic Fish by Trung Le Nguyen. This is a graphic novel about a boy who is trying to come out to his mom but he doesn't know how to do it. So his mom is Vietnamese, his family is Vietnamese, and he's struggling to come out to her because there's no word for what he is in Vietnam. And the way that they do it is told beautifully. The story that he has, he and his mother read fairy tales together, and that's their favorite thing. And the way that, first off, the art is stunning. I like that they use colors to differentiate between the real world and the spirit world, and just I mean, look, can I show this? Look at the drawings. They are stunning. Not only that, like, I just love fairy tales. I love how magical they are. I think that you can they're the same all over the world, because I do that. I read fairy tales from all over the world all the time, and they're always magical in every language, in every country. And that was one of my favorite things about this. The art is lovely. The way that you can tell a story through art in a graphic novel form, I think is the visceralness of it makes it so much more amazing. I really, really recommend. This is actually a YA book. It's stunning. It's amazing Asian American literature. Check this out if you can. It's beautiful. It's a great one for Pride. So check this out. All right, so those are all the books that I read in the month of May. Let me know if they are some of your favorites, or if some of these are on your TBR list. I definitely recommend, if there's anyone you read, this one is stunning, stunning. Anyway, thanks for being here today, guys. I'll catch you next time. Bye.